welcome everyone to today's conversation on navigating graduate school in North America as a first generation scholar. So one of the things as a first generation scholar is you have to figure out a lot of things on your own. And as you may have seen, we were trying to figure out this Zoom presentation. So thankfully, we figured that out. So whether you're still considering graduate school, preparing applications, or already planning your move abroad, we hope today's discussion gives you practical advice and encouragement. My name is Dr. Joyline Chepkorir, a postdoctoral fellow at Johns Hopkins University, and I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Biswadeep Dhar, an assistant professor at James Madison University in Virginia, USA. Together, we share lessons from our journeys, discuss common challenges, and answer your questions throughout the session. So let's begin with our journeys. One thing I appreciate is that no two academic paths look exactly the same, especially for first-generation scholars. Dr. Thar, could you please tell us about your journey into higher education and what eventually led you into public health?
Absolutely. First of all, it's my pleasure and honor to be with you. And thanks for having me, Dr. Chepkorir.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so I think, I will just begin with I wanted to be a physician at some point of time. And then I moved into, life sciences. I studied life sciences, biological sciences. I'm from India, so I studied over there. We call it a zoology. And then I had chemistry as minor, right? So after my bachelor's and master's degree from India, so I came to the United States for my graduate studies. So I got enrolled and got admitted to a PhD program in biological sciences. So I was working with labs, like working with mice, cell lines, and all these things, mostly pretty much doing experimental work. But at some point of time, I realized that biology is great. I mean, of course, but this is not something I really wanted to see myself for the rest of my career.
Mm-hmm.
So likewise, in the meantime, I got my master's degree from the University of Florida. So I joined University of Florida for my graduate studies. So I got my master's degree. And then I started applying for, several PhD programs in public health because I realized that is something I'm really interested to work with people. I am really interested to work with the community, with the populations, right? Instead of working and spending hours and hours in the lab, right? So this is how I came to the area of public health, and likewise, I got admitted to the PhD program at the University of Florida. I studied lifestyle behaviors, basically lifestyle behaviors and lifestyle medicine, and trying to understand the health behaviors of people, and of how it relates to chronic disease disparities, and prevention at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
in the US and also at the same time across the globe. So that was my area. I started off with my public health with my doctoral degree at the University of Florida. But I just realized something. This is how I rediscovered myself. And I just really wanted to address this to my prospective, I would say colleagues, future colleagues, students, scholars, like first generation folks, like who are listening from all across the globe. Like, this is how I really worked hard. And that was my biggest challenge. And getting good grades was not the greatest challenge to me. But
Mm-hmm.
I think the most difficult thing was to rediscover myself, what I really need, where lies my strengths, where lies my weaknesses. I think since I felt like biology is not maybe the best fit to me, although I had great grades, in India and as well as in the US, but that was not something I really wanted to see myself for the rest half of my career or the remaining of my career, right? That was just the beginning. So this is how I understood and discovered myself. And to add something on top of that is I consider myself on top of being named as an assistant professor, a postdoctoral fellow, whatever it is, like all the fancy names. I consider myself as a true lifelong learner. I am a true lifelong student and a true lifelong scholar or something like that, where I have the opportunity to learn from exceptional people like you, from Johns Hopkins, from professors, from even from my students and interns, because they're excellent. They have some great ideas to learn from. And that's how I would say, this is how I came into the area of public health. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Thar, on that introduction into your journey. It reminds me a lot about my journey of rediscovering myself, learning, relearning, and learning, because I didn't really have a clear path as well as a first generation scholar. I didn't have anyone whose footsteps I could follow. I grew up in rural Kenya as well, attended two public primary schools with very limited resources. I remember we didn't have libraries and I really struggled to read. I my mother taught me how to read actually because my classes 1 to 3 were very large and it was just hard to have one-to-one attention from the teachers. Anyway, I took a long path. My parents eventually decided to take me to a private school, and that's where I really got the attention of the teachers and really became serious with my studies. I went on to high school and then got my bachelor's degree in nursing from Michigan State University through a scholarship with the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program, and then another scholarship to the University of Edinburgh from the same Mastercard program, and finally came to Johns Hopkins to pursue my PhD in nursing. Looking back, I never imagined I will go through that path, but once again, I would say it doesn't really matter where you start. It just matters that you really work hard, regardless of the path you choose. So I am very glad that Dr. Thar, you and I are both pursuing research in public health. And I would have never said so if I didn't really interact with my community, get to assess some of the challenges and also opportunities in my community to contribute as a first generation scholar. So that is a good transition on to the next question. So many students joining us today are interested in studying in Canada and the US, but they aren't sure where to begin. Dr. Thar, if someone were starting from scratch, what would be the first 3 steps you would recommend?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. I think I would say the first 3 steps are the top points to consider before applying to Canada or the US is like, why do I apply? That's my first question.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not a visa officer here. I'm not an immigration person, right? But my question is to the prospective students, scholars, postdoctoral fellows, whoever it is from any parts of the world, is like the faculty members actually look for your application in details. They're
Right.
very, very smart and they screen your applications very fast at the same time, right? So, why are you interested? Is this something you are not getting in your own country, right? As for example, maybe in Kenya or India or any other parts of the world. So, please spend some time to understand the reason for your application. Is this something, okay, my friends are going to United States for their studies, my relative is going for his MBA at Stanford or somewhere else, right? And that's why I had to apply. Please do not do that. That's a big mistake. That's the first big mistake, I would say. So rather than try to understand where lies your strengths, where lies your weaknesses, where lies your interest, right? Because that is something you need to get married with, right? It is like a wedding, right? If you do not like that, you would end up in a divorce, maybe within 3 years or even 2 months. So take your time to understand why do you want to apply. That's my first point, right? Second point is, how do I apply? Because it's a long process. It's not like in 10 days you will just have your application packet and will send the application. You have to talk to several mentors. So that's what Dr. Chepkorir was saying, trying to find the mentors, not just the academic mentor, maybe your personal mentor, maybe your professional mentor, right? Who can actually help you, maybe your friends who can serve as a mentor. I
Right.
still remember my friend, who is still now a very good friend of mine, who was doing his PhD at Princeton during that time. He helped me to go through the mathematics solutions, for the GRE exam. I was not an engineering student. So I had to brush my skills in simple mathematics. And that's why we are still good friends. Although he was from Princeton studying engineering, he spent a lot of time with me. He helped me to go through the process, right? So you need to understand those folks who won't smile at you, who won't laugh at you, but at the same time, they will actually try to help you. Find those mentors who may be your friends or relatives or anyone you may feel seem the fit, right? So that's the second step. How do I apply, right? And the final step is, when is the right time? Because timing is very important, right? It can be relating to your personal life. It can be relating to your financial assistance if you may need, right? So the right time, right fit is really, really important. As for example, if you have done your bachelor's degree in engineering or master's in science or liberal arts or something like that, check yourself. See if this is the right time to apply right after your master's or right after your bachelor's degree or not. Because in many programs in the United States and in Canada, they look for your real world experience. If you have done anything in the real world, may it be professional, may it be academic, may it be practice, like if you're a doctor, like any kind of experience or something like that, right? So I think gaining those experience matter a lot. Like if you're applying for competitive schools or competitive programs. So I think like check out the reason for your application, the methods of application, and finally the right time and the right fit. I think these three are the top ones from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thar. I really liked your analogy of commitment, the analogy of marriage. What are you signing up for? That is a good place to start, and I wish I had asked myself that. And one thing I really want to encourage people is not to self-reject. Once you decide you're going to commit to undergraduate study in the US or graduate study, just do it and allow the admissions committee to decide your fate, whether you're getting into the school or not. But do not look at an application and feel intimidated, because you don't know your strength sometimes until somebody sees it on paper. So now, Dr. Thar, once students know where to begin and have identified programs that align with their goals, the next challenge is building a strong application. Many applicants assume that grades are the most important factor, but admissions committees look at much more than the GPA. What makes a graduate school application truly stand out to the point that the admissions committee are like, okay, we are going to accept these students, we are sending an acceptance letter?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. I think this will be really helpful for the prospective students. Yeah, absolutely. The strong GPAs are always great. These are always helpful if you have a strong GPA. But if you do not have the best GPAs, like 4.2 or the best of the GPAs in your career, that's totally fine as well, because it has to have, you know, uh, an overall strong application. They are not just looking at your GPA, like, okay, 4.0 and you get admitted. No.
Mhm.
So that's how I would just, share some of my perspectives, my experiences. I mean, as a student, as a scholar, then as also a search committee member, like, how it works actually from our end right now, right? First and foremost thing is you must have some tangible methodological skills. When I use this word, tangible methodological skills is something, outside of your curricula, right? Something like where you can show that you have actually learned that skill, not just in paper, not just with your grades, but you have hands-on experiences.
Yeah.
You have hands-on experience, like if you're from engineering, maybe internships. I mean, I'm not from engineering, right? Maybe internships from any field actually helps, right? Um, get letters. This is something important. I have seen, I also struggled a lot. I mean, being a first generation, right? Um, so getting letters from someone who knows you well. This is very, very important. I have seen people, even I was being misguided at some point of time in my career, get letters from big names, from big people, right? But that's not actually true, right? If you get a letter of recommendation from a Nobel laureate through another person, that would be a generic letter.
Mm.
Believe me or not, nothing is free in your life.
Mhm.
If he or she do not know you, why are they going to give us very strong recommendation letter? Because their name is there, right? So remember, get letters from someone who is familiar with you. Maybe you have done some work with them. Maybe you have shadowed them, right? Or something like that, right? But get some strong letters of recommendation rather than just a mere, like a generic letter of recommendation, even from Nobel laureates. Take it, this very important. The last thing is, I would say, like, how did your previous experience, your previous experience and your previous education, say for example, you had bachelor's in public health, or maybe bachelor's in nursing, or maybe bachelor's in life science or engineering, whatever it is, right? You have to write a statement where it actually translates what you have done and of how it is going to make an impact. As for example, how did your experience and previous education help you to be a strong candidate? What is that something you are going to bring that to the table? Because they're also looking for the best candidates, right? There are thousands and thousands of applications. How are you going to be the unique candidate that they're going to pick you for interview or maybe direct admissions? That is very, very important. Please do not copy and paste from others' statements. Everyone, we have our own life. Although Dr. Chepkorir from Hopkins and I work in the same area, but we have our own perspectives. We have our own history, right? And that is the strength of both of us.
Yeah.
We are sharing our perspectives. So you cannot simply copy and paste from others, statement. Make your own statement unique and the strongest of all, showing that you are comfortable enough, you have the experience, you have the knowledge, and you are bringing something to the table, right? So that is something really, this is really, really important to show that you are really interested in a specific topic or a specific research idea or something you are actually trying to fit in to the lab.
Yes, I really like the fact that you emphasize a personal statement, which is required in almost 100% of all undergraduate and graduate applications. I also like the fact that you really have to connect your past, your present, and future. It has to be a coherent story. And then I like that you said people have to be authentic. Just write your stories. It's going to capture somebody's attention. So moving on so that we cover these topics. We've talked about what makes an application strong. On the flip side, many qualified students miss opportunities because of avoidable mistakes. Dr. Thar, from your experience, what are the biggest mistakes applicants make when applying to universities in the US and Canada?
I think one of them, I just mentioned you, like, copying and pasting from other statements. This is a big blunder. I mean, sometimes people may feel like, okay, this is an ideal statement. This has been written so nice. It's coherent and it's concise within 1 page or 1.5 page. And I would just like to grab this. That's the biggest blunder you make, right? Please do not do that, right? Maybe you talk to people, you read other statements, you get some idea that how does statement look like, right? That is something, but again, be your own, be on your own. I mean, be authentic, right? That is something, I had so many failures in my life, but that's my strength.
Yeah.
These are the adversities which make you compassionate, which make you, gain more wisdom, right? You are resilient. Share all those attributes in your statement. You don't have to say that I'm resilient, but this is how you are actually putting it in your statement, right? So no risks, no gains. There will be risks associated to anything you like, anything you do for studying abroad, right? But at the same time, if you do not test risks, there won't be any gains. As I said always, I said to this myself every day, nothing is free in your life. Even none of your friends you are getting, it's free. Take it from me. Anyways, next one. So if you never fail, you never try. You have never tried actually. So write the statement, show the statement to your professor, share the statement with your friend whom you trust, or maybe with your colleagues or family members who are maybe good in English, right? Share it with them, get some feedback. Again, I shared my statement with my friend. I mean, I am from public health. He was studying in electrical engineering. It's two different fields, right? And he was studying engineering at Princeton during that time. I shared my statement. He was not from public health, but he still gave me ample amount of feedback, and that helped me to understand and realize where is that place where I need to make it, much look better, where I need to strengthen my statement, right? So these are something which is really important. But if you never start, you have to start. There should be a start. Even if you fail, just forget about it. Don't care about the failures. Everyone has failures, right?
Yeah.
So do not send the generic applications. That's something I'm emphasizing again and again. Please do not make it generic. Send a strong application that will highlight that this is someone, Dr. Chepkorir or Dr. XYZ, and they will, definitely consider your application in that way. So yeah, so these are my stories. Like, share your unique story. Like, everyone has a unique stories. So share that in the statement. And again, as I said, trying to emphasize on the experience you had, the education you had. You don't need to share your failures, but do not lie, right? So
Yes.
this is how you share your unique stories, and that will help the admissions committee to consider your applications on a favorable side. Thank you.
Great. Those are really great tips, Dr. Thar. One thing I would also like to advise applicants is to not wait until the last minute. A very good application takes months and not weeks. You might get lucky depending on how much resources around you, but I imagine if you don't really have many people that can review your application, give you recommendations, you are going to need time. You're going to need to notify them ahead of time to prep your recommendation letters. You're going to have somebody review your personal statement. You may need to rewrite most sections. So give yourself time. Dr. Thar, we've discussed how to strengthen an application and avoid common mistakes. Another important step, especially for research-based programs, is finding the right supervisor or mentor. How should students identify faculty who are good fit and approach them effectively?
That's one of the toughest questions to get. Yeah, absolutely. This is a very good question. So for those students who are applying for, there are several applications like masters by thesis, masters by non-thesis, MBA, like, PhD program. So this question I'm thinking, considering to be for PhD folks, like for people who are willing to go for a PhD program. So I think this is very important. So the first and foremost thing is go through the faculty members' pages on the website, right? See what they're actually doing and whether that work is of interest to you or not. If it's of no interest, even though if he or she is a Nobel laureate, it doesn't really matter to you.
Right.
If you do not like the person, even if someone is good looking, are you going to marry that person? Does it really matter? I don't think so. So check on their work and see if it really makes a good fit for you or not. That's first and foremost important. And likewise, understand your experiences. Like, I'm again saying, understand your own experiences. What have you done? And whether it relates to the work he or she is doing or not, right? Even if it's not the same, at least there is some kind of association to the work they are doing or not, right? So read. So for that, you need to spend ample time to read their papers, the recent journal articles. You can also go through YouTube videos if they have any, right? To get to know about their research, to get to know about the kind of, graduates are from the lab, right? Maybe they're masters or MPH or PhDs or whatever. What they're doing right now, right? Where are they right now? Right. So I belong, I came from the University of Florida. So if my chair, like with whom I did my PhD, they might say like this guy has done his PhD and then went to University of Illinois in Chicago for postdoctoral studies and then this and there XYZ and right now he's in Virginia. So this is like, you have the ability to reach out to them, email them, get to know like how is the lab culture? How is the work culture? Right? If you have any specific research question of interest, share your CV, share a good CV, and share that research question of interest, or maybe something you're interested to contribute to the lab. I think you are definitely going to get a response from the professor because that is something they're also interested. They're looking for good people.
Yeah.
They really don't care whether you are in India or Pakistan or anywhere or Kenya, but they're looking for appropriate good folks. That is something you are actually trying to fill in the gaps.
Right.
That's something I would say, like based on a question to identify the faculty of whether he or she is a good fit or not and approach them effectively. Effective is a strong word. And these are all the things I just mentioned. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Thar. One of the things that I've had before is to not just evaluate the mentor and their research, but also to look for other mentors outside your research lab or your research team. So I have had people say, find a mentor that you would consult if, let's say, you're confused about your next steps, because your first mentor, your academic mentor, might not know everything. So find mentors within your peer group and also outside your peer group. Just, you are always looking for a mentor to help you do something. There is so much expertise out there. There are so many people willing to share very useful information. So don't be afraid to look out there for a mentor. Many students, Dr. Thar, that are getting only know that getting admitted is the first step. Now, the next step is, how am I going to pay for graduate school? That is one of the big worries of international students. So what scholarships, assistantships, or funding pathways should aspiring students look into or
Yeah, absolutely.
prioritize?
I totally understand. I can still like remember my previous days when I was applying for. So I had to borrow a lot of money from people. Like, fortunately, maybe with God's grace, I did not have to spend a single penny for my graduate studies, whether it was master's degree or PhD, right? But I had to borrow. Being a first generation, I mean, this is something it's very common, and that is where our strength lie, right? So I had to borrow some good amount of money for my travel fares, like airfares, right? Uh, Even for the first month, like, I had to pay the rent or something. I did not ask my father because I know it would be a big challenge to him. So I did not want to pressurize him that I'm going to US for higher studies, but it's not like I would take a penny from you, even it's as a loan. No, I won't. I did not take that. So I totally understand all those pressures coming from first generation folks, right? And I respect for that, right? So I would say I spend a lot of time trying to figure out the financial assistance and the fellowships that are being available to the university. So these are called institutional fellowships and assistantships, right? Sometimes they've been given from graduate school. Sometimes they've been given from the department. Sometimes they've been given from a professor's like grant money, right? So it all depends. So you need to check out, like, that's why I said, your interest, your methods, and these are all the methods. Like, it takes a lot of time to talk to the professors if they have money or not, right? Of course, they won't let you know that, okay, I will take you, but they can at least let you know that you have some funding and you may apply if you wish, right? So check out those things, like all the resources being available. And on top of that, there are several other external funding as well, right? You can apply for your own funding if you have a strong research statement or research question. You can apply that as a grant proposal for your pre-doc applications. I know, like, being international, there are some restrictions, like with US immigrations, like you cannot apply to all like national fundings like NIH and NSF in the beginning, but that's totally fine. There are still some external funding opportunities from, non-governmental organizations, right? And also from your own country. I mean, right, as for example, I'm from India. I know like there are several opportunities from the Education USA Foundation, like USIEF Foundation, like Fulbright fellowships and so forth. I mean, I'm happy to share with you all the resources from India for those who are applying from there. The several opportunities, not just for masters, but also for postdoc. And I also shared some postdoctoral opportunities where you can actually get funding for sponsoring your postdoctoral studies.
Yes, we'll
Thanks.
make sure those opportunities are in the comment section of this video. So please be sure to check out, because Dr. Thar and I took time to really find opportunities that are relevant to aspiring graduate students and also undergrads. And one of the things I'd like to mention in relation to funding is that it's better to apply to multiple schools and apply to multiple scholarships so that you can compare the packages and then choose the one that guarantees the most funding so that you can focus on your studies and not have to worry about financial stability or your income. Most schools, most graduate schools, give a stipend to students so that students can just focus on their studies, finish, and move on to the next thing. So please apply to multiple schools and then compare the funding packages. Dr. Thar, getting admitted and securing funding are key milestones, but
Mhm.
that is not the end of the story. Once students arrive in a new country, in this case USA or Canada, they often face challenges that they never anticipated. So what should first-generation international scholars prepare for, not just academically, but personally and socially?
I love this question. So let me just share my experience and what I've seen during my graduate studies. So first is something what is called identity shifts, and I'm just trying to share what it is actually. So I've seen many students, they might be a rank holder or a top student, maybe best in the class, right? Or maybe the best in the country, right? That's excellent, but you do not have to brag it because you never know. That's a small pool, but you are coming into an ocean,
Mhm.
right? From sea to ocean. So here, all the best friends from all the countries are here. Majority of it. Of course, there are several other places as well. But since US is a huge country with more than around 4,000 plus universities and liberal arts colleges, you are in an ocean. So please remember that you might be a rank holder from your current or your past institute, but that doesn't mean you would be the best scholar where you're going to. That is something it is very, very important. And many people I have seen, they're exceptionally bright students and they failed. They couldn't complete their PhD. Even they went to Cornell or private IVs, they failed. It really doesn't make sense, even if you go to Harvard or Princeton or Cornell, but without getting a degree. That's a big failure. Please remember all these identity shifts from the beginning itself, right? Okay, the next one is I would like to highlight is about that a student with all the top grades or the best grades with maybe GPA of 4.0 is not the same as a top scholar. You might be a bright student. I still remember a friend of mine said, honestly, he was very honest to me, that, Bishwadeep, I am an excellent student. I know that. I'm not bragging it. I know that I'm a really good student. It's not just being reflected on my grades, but I know that. I mean, I'm a good student, but I'm an exceptionally worst of the researchers because I cannot think beyond my what I've studied in my course or my from textbooks. So he admitted it. So I'm not saying like you have to be like that, but a top student is not exactly by default would be a top scholar. That is something I would just keep it in mind because research and taking courses and getting good grades is absolutely not the same. Maybe I might be wrong. So it's to you, Dr. Chepkorir, but
I
just
agree with you. I agree with you.
and the last one to say is the cultural and the financial shocks. I mean, I know even for for first generation folks, like of course the cultural and financial shocks might be for everyone, not just the first generation folks, but
Yeah.
these are very common. Like the cultural, like you might feel like lonely, isolated, like you don't have your family members, your parents, or whatever. If you're married, not your spouse, if they're not accompanying with you. And the financial shocks, I mean, if you don't have any funding, say for example, I've seen several students like they suffered a lot. But if you have funding, so that's what I said, spend adequate time. Even if it takes 2 years, that's fine. Get some financial independence and then come to the country. Otherwise, like, as Dr. Chepkorir said, like, graduate study itself is hard. It's not easy. And on top of that, if there's financial obstacles and barriers, it might be even more challenging. So
Right.
just take these 3 points from me as based on my own experience. Thank you again.
Yeah, those are really great points. Let me add one more thing. I would want to encourage students to not wait until they're struggling to build a support system. Graduate school is overwhelming, or it can feel overwhelming, especially when you're far from home and familiar surroundings. But be intentional about finding those mentors we've talked about, connecting with classmates, joining student organizations, attending social events, and just staying connected to people back home because you really need that support system. And these relationships also can make a difference in the long run. You never know what you learn from people by interacting with them. You can learn about more opportunities, more funding opportunities. There's some funding opportunities I discovered just by being in social spaces and somebody randomly said something. So don't underestimate the power of the people around you. Social capital is really key in graduate school and beyond. Dr. Thar, moving on, I really like our conversation so far, but I want us to cover a few more things. So
Mhm.
many of the challenges we've discussed become much easier to navigate when you have the right people in your corner. For first generation scholars, however, building these relationships doesn't always come naturally because they may not have family members who have navigated this path or even acquaintances. So, how can students intentionally build networks and confidence? We've mentioned a lot about mentorship. I would say just cover things that we haven't mentioned yet. We've mentioned a lot of things already, but in case there are things that you think they need to know, please tell us.
Sure, absolutely. And this is a great question. Again, like all the relevant questions, I mean, for prospective candidates. So I think first and foremost thing is like, which I've seen a lot. I mean, people are mostly, I mean, engrossed, like, or maybe spending all of the times, I mean, in studies, in doing research and so forth. And the remaining, I mean, and the remainder of the time, if they may have, they're spending mostly in social events, maybe with their community. That's totally fine. I do appreciate that. And I really like that as well, right? But I would say, on top of that, if you may have some time, maybe try to find some more time. That's totally up to you. You have to find your own time, right? Join student organizations. Some people say, like, I mean, feel like this is a waste of time. Please, it is not. You cannot believe, I mean, the power you will get it from the leadership organizations. I'm repeating the word, the word power, right? So the experience, I mean, my experience was, I mean, above and beyond because I spent a lot of time in leadership organizations, we believe or not. And I simply asked myself, what am I doing actually? Because I simply did not want to waste my time in going to parties and nightclubs and downtown, but I tried helping the communities, right? Maybe in terms of helping the housing, like at the University of Florida. So, and both myself and my wife actually were like strong advocates in housing community, right? Graduate school, again, like we both actually worked a lot. We spent a lot of time with the graduate school, right? And this is how you, for first generation, my wife is not a first generation candidate, but I am a first generation. I really strengthened my network by that way. So I still remember the way I used to talk with the deans, with the vice provost. Some other graduate students can't even think of going to the deans and the vice provost because we have been working together, may it be a student, postdoc, or faculty, right? The goal is the same. Like, you get to know about how the system works beyond your academia, right?
Yeah.
Beyond what you do in the lab, beyond what you do in the research or teaching or whatever it is. We do everything. I mean, and that's how you get to know people. It's not like, in India, this is how I would just like to address, like in India, what generally happens is if someone has connections, like, they will just introduce you directly. Okay, he's my son. I would like to introduce, help him. But my father doesn't have any connections.
Mhm.
So how would I get those connections with the leadership, with the bureaucracy, with the administrative powers? This is how you get to. This is the first step. This is the first step. And this will eventually happen if you take the leadership, if you take the ownership, right? And always, I think this is a very good skill I learned myself. Like always learn from others.
Right.
This is a very strong, skill, like ability to learn from others and removing your ego. At some point of time, of course, I know it's public. I lost several of my friends, but that's totally fine. If you reach the top of the ladder, you have to lose some people from your life. That's totally okay. But I would say, like, take the leadership, always learn from others, right? And remember this cultural diversity, whether you are from any parts of the world, whether you are black or white or brown color, whether you have religiosity as Christianity or Hinduism or Muslim or whatever it is, take that as cultural diversity as assets to inclusivity.
Right.
These are all strengths, right? So after a PhD, and a professor told me actually, like, postdocs are best advertised through words of mouth. And so share your research with people with whom you know the best. You have to advertise yourself. I know folks from India, maybe I don't know about much about Kenya, but they're shy. They're not sharing what they're doing. But who cares if you see some people are laughing and smiling at you, you don't care. That's your own life. You have your short span of life. So you have to do what you need to do. That's it. Thank you.
Yes, I really like that. Don't be afraid to talk about your research or your program because it might land you an opportunity. And one of the things I really struggled with as a first generation scholar was building that confidence and talking about my research. It really did not come easy, but I encourage students to just take one step at a time. Start with the people that you're comfortable talking to. Next time you know it, you will be talking to someone that you have never met before, and you're not even afraid of sharing your experiences. So please talk to people. Don't be afraid. In the US, people like to talk about themselves. So when you ask them, tell me about what you do, they will be very happy to share. Um, I know some people from my country and myself who may want to be humble. We don't even want people to know what we are up to because we think it's just normal, but hey, people out here advertise what they are doing on LinkedIn, social media. That is how people remember you when they see opportunities. So make sure your name and what you do is familiar to at least people you interact with and also to people outside your social circles. I don't have anything else to add to that. You really addressed that well, Dr. Thar. There is something else I want us to address. Even with strong mentors and support systems, every graduate student experiences setbacks at some point. Rejection, whether it be fellowships, manuscripts, or grants they apply for, and also they begin to have self-doubt. And then there is something called imposter syndrome that's very common in graduate school. Let me define that. So imposter syndrome is a psychological condition that is characterized by persistent doubt concerning one's abilities or accomplishments and is accompanied by fear of being exposed as a fraud despite evidence of one's ongoing success. So, for instance, when I came here in the US, I was a top student in my high school, but that doesn't mean I was going to automatically be a top student in undergrad and graduate school. I still had to put in the work. But sometimes you begin to feel a certain type of way. If you get into Harvard and then somehow you don't even know how to interact with people, you start feeling a type of way about yourself unless you don't really care. But imposter syndrome is very common. So, Dr. Thar, what advice would you give students who are navigating those challenges?
I think the examples which you already shared is fantastic. It's brilliant. So maybe from my end, I would say like this is something what my PhD mentor actually used to say all the time. Do not take things personally. Because when we had some, draft or something, I mean, in the beginning, I was felt like, oh my goodness, this is such a shame. Like I couldn't write a good draft. There are so many feedback with, underlines, and I was like quite embarrassed at the same time. Like I'm a PhD student, what am I doing? And then, my PhD mentor, of course, you need to be lucky to be, to have such mentors. Like she actually said to me, Vishwadeep, do not take these things personally. I'm not telling anything bad to you, even not bad to your draft. I'm just trying to make you learn the process. I'm a US citizen. I was born in the United States. Even we struggle all the time to write drafts. These are all scientific journal articles, right? These are all like not like stories on Facebook or maybe a post like that. So do not take things personally. And at the same time, as based on what my mentor said, I'm just adding on top of that, recalibrate the definition of success. What others say, what you are thinking, what your fathers or I mean, your parents, I think we need to recalibrate that, the definition of success to you, right? That is something really important, right? And that takes time. That's totally takes it takes a lot of time to understand that, right? And what I used to do is like, this is how I navigated my challenges. Like I was not shy at all. I openly discussed the setbacks and get advice from people whom I trusted. I mean, I mean, I feel really privileged that I had such mentors. Even if I have some failures, like, any kind of failures, I share it with my mentors, PhD mentors still now, right? And I get advice. These are my lifelong mentors, not just my PhD mentors, right? I share like, okay, this is something happening. It's not relating to academia. What should I do now? And they are always there to help me, right? So discuss the setbacks with them. Never get isolated. What people are thinking, you do not care, you're not bothered about what people are thinking unless you care for them, right?
Yeah.
So remember, even if you go up the ladder, there will be some people who will be your critique. So that's fine. That's totally fine. People will laugh at you, smile at you. But at the same time, they will feel jealous about you. Take
Right.
it from me. So normalize failure as a data gathering step. These are all the data. These are all your setback data, right? And this is how that will remove the shame associated with it, if there is any, right?
Yeah.
So check-ins with not just with your mentors, with your peers, with your colleagues, like whenever you get stuck, talk to them, right? Even if they're not in Kenya or in India, like any parts of the world, if you trust that person, share it with them. That this is where you're struggling, like you're helpless. Seek some attention. I can say like I did not have money to go to a psychologist. I did not have money to go to a clinical psychologist or a counselor, but that's fine. I had some really good, like, I would say colleagues, like, who really cared about me and helped me. And right now we are still friends in the US, right? So check out like who those person are, who those people are. And whenever you're stuck, just reach out to them openly.
Oh, great. It just goes to say that you really had a good relationship with your mentors. And I'm sure that did not just come easily. You built that relationship over and over to the point that you can contact them and check in with them and tell them when you're stuck. One thing I also want to remind people is to avoid comparing themselves
Mm.
to avoid comparing themselves to other people. Amy Maureen says the only person you should be comparing yourself to is the person you were yesterday. So think about your yesterday. You got into an institution last month or last week or yesterday. Now think about that person. Don't think about the person that already has a PhD and you're trying to become them. That will never happen. It really takes time to be who you want to be, and you already have the potential. The fact that you're already thinking about graduate school or undergraduate abroad, it means you are thinking beyond your horizons. So really think about yourselves from a positive angle. Um, Dr. Thar, we've covered a lot of practical advice from applications, funding, mentorship, overcoming setbacks while studying abroad. But as we begin to wrap up, okay, I'm gonna need some water.
That's okay. And I would like to add something else which I did not share. Sometimes when even if we fail, like it's not about failure, even if it doesn't work with a mentor,
Mhm.
that's totally fine. Remember that that may not have been the best fit. It's not a
Right.
failure. It's like a lock and key mechanism. Maybe it's not the best fit. Move on and seek the best mentors who would be helping you of what you need. So take it like that way.
Right. People change mentors a lot. And it's okay if relationship don't work with your mentors. It's like any other relationship for sure. So thank you for that reminder. So as we begin to wrap up, I'd like to end with a moment of reflection, looking back on your own journey. What is the one thing that you wish you had known before starting your academic journey abroad?
Yep. I think something, in the beginning, like, I was really damn shy. Like
Mhm.
I still remember
I
myself.
can
Like
relate.
I was super shy. I was there was no question about smartness. I was absolutely an unsmart guy. I could not talk well. My communication was maybe the worst of all, I would say. I don't mind to say. But I felt like along with your good grades, along with your research interests, along with your all the positive attributes, sometimes I felt like people overlook another strong skill which is really, really required, not just for your academia, but for your overall success in life. It is interpersonal communications.
Right.
And I'm super glad and privileged to say that thanks to the United States of America for building my interpersonal communications at this level. Otherwise, without the challenges, without the adversities, we cannot achieve all this wisdom, courage, and resilience. So thanks to this country, thanks to the all the hard work the US universities will provide you to get challenged. So get challenged every day and try to learn every day. That is something. It's not like I was a topper in India, but who cares? Are
Mm.
you a topper over here? There is no question of topper. We do not call it, oh, you're a topper. No one, even if you go to any schools, there is no tagline that it's called topper. No, there is nothing like that. So you be in your own, be on your own, and be the best. Try to be the best and try to compare, as you said, Dr. Chepkorir, like what have you done 6 years back or 2 years back? Now compare yourself with yourself. That's it. You do not need to compare with others. Maybe like public health is our strengths, right? So if I go to engineering, it's not my passion. Why should I go? It's just as because many of my good friends are going, no, please do not do that. I mean, that is something really important, right? And
Yeah.
the one last thing to say is like, as I said before, maybe uh, like, you know, meeting up with the friends whenever you had time during the graduate school, it's great. Within your community is great. That is nothing but bonding. You're bonding with your friends from your own country. Like we had Diwali, we had several other holy, like several other events, right? That's great. Like, of course, you will go. But there are some instances I found like people are only stuck with their own community members, and that might not be helpful. I'm not saying this is wrong, but that might not be helpful because you also need to bridge and link the networks and the social capital at the same time. Because without the linking, the social capital, you won't get the access. You won't get the access at all, right? At the same time, if you do not bridge, then you will miss the trust factor
Yeah.
and you will miss the engagement to share with the people from other communities.
Hmm.
That's what I would say. Bonding is excellent, but please do not forget these two words: bridge and link at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bridge and link. I like those two words. You just reminded me of one of the things I struggled with when I was starting my academic journey. And especially, so at the start of my academic journey, I couldn't really figure out the major that I wanted to do. And somehow I gave myself the pressure to figure it out the first week. And then I remember at the end, when I graduated, and I had to get a nursing job. I knew my employment authorization was going to end in a year. So I was really stressed trying to figure out the next thing. And then
Mhm.
as soon as I got into the doctoral program and graduated, again, I was always pressuring myself to know what next. But one thing I want to tell people is not they don't have to have their whole career figured out. I wish I knew that. I wish somebody told me you don't have to have it all figured out. Just go in. If you don't like it, change to something else. If you like it, pursue it. So
Mhm.
I would have really worried less about my career when I was in the program and after the program. I am still figuring it out anyway, but I really wish I didn't worry. I wish I just trusted the process, put in the work, and trusted that things are going to work out for my good. So last three questions, just the first thing that comes to your mind, Dr. Thar, if you could choose just one skill every aspiring graduate student should develop before applying, what would it be?
I think maybe I would say three instead of one.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. So finding your own interests, number one, that's first and foremost, very important. Number two, understanding your short and long term goals. What are your short term goals and what are your long term goals? And that would be definitely based on interest, right? And number three, without fail, please understand your own strengths and your own weaknesses at the same time. If you lie to yourself, you might be in trouble.
Right. I like that. I will just add one more thing that you had said, but I just want to emphasize. I don't mean to repeat it, but let me just emphasize. One skill I would choose would be communication. You are going to be writing a lot. You are going to be emailing professors and supervisors a lot. If you're in graduate school, you might be involved in some research, and there is research dissemination where you disseminate your research or talk to people in conferences about your research, write manuscripts. Once
Mhm.
you master the art of communication, life becomes so easy. And I wish I was very consistent in building skills. I wished I had joined a public speaking club in undergrad. I know I thought about it, I just didn't do it, but I really want you guys to take that seriously and learn from me so you don't make the same mistakes that I made. Second to last one, Dr. Thar, what is one common myth about studying abroad? You can say two or more if you have.
Okay. Maybe I have two.
Okay.
Uh, I would say, like, there is kind of a thought process like you will need a perfect GPA to get admissions. That is actually not. You do not need a perfect GPA to get admissions. That's number one. And the next thing is this is like everyone feels like only the Ivy League universities like Harvard, Princeton, MIT, and all those eight Ivy League universities are the only path to success. That is not. Choosing a university in the US is about finding the right fit. It's all about the right fit. Again, as I said, like I've seen my friends, my seniors as well, coming to Cornell for chemistry PhD after 8 years with no degree,
Mm.
with not even a master's after 8 years at Cornell chemistry. So, right fit at the right time is important. Like trying to understand what major you're interested in, your learning style, and not just like looking at the prestige, right? That is very, very important. Like, you need to be successful, and you can be successful anywhere. I mean, if you have all these attributes of what Dr. Chepkorir and I tried to share it with you today.
Mhm. So since you covered two, I'm gonna move on to the next question because I realized the myth that I covered, I already spoke about, and the myth that I had here was that you have to have your entire career figured out. So moving on to the last one, what is one message you want to say to a first generation student listening from a small town or a village and is wondering whether they belong to an institution in the US or Canada?
I think what is, I mean, definitely I would like to say, like, if you are from a small town or a village or rural area, I think that's your strength. That is the unique story where you can build upon your statement. That is your biggest strength. Without the challenges, folks like Dr. Chipkar and I, like being first generation folks, like, without the adversities which we faced in our life, I mean, we wouldn't have embraced this kind of, wisdom and resilience and courage at the same time. So I would say take that as an opportunity, as a unique opportunity. And if you really believe in yourself, your strengths, you get to know yourself as in general and confident in what you do, understand your passion, your strengths, your weaknesses, again, what I shared, you know, and have every desire to learn. Learn, get the skill to learn from others, right? And ask questions as many as you can. Work hard, and anything is possible. I think anything is possible here in this country. You have a lot of opportunities, but if you do not work hard and smart at the same time,
Yeah.
you have to work smart, right? Otherwise, it will be a challenge again. So, smart and hard work pay off. Like, and always remember that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I've seen a lot of cases in my life.
Yeah, you need to put in the work wherever life takes you, whether you go to the US or Canada or another country abroad, you still have to put in the work. One thing I would say to somebody in a small village is don't underestimate the value of your perspective. That almost repeats what Dr. Thara said, but I just wanted to say that what you have observed in your small village or your small town, that's what the world needs to hear because they don't see things the way you see them. Your experiences and your ideas will not be the same. And that's what you need to bring to the table. Your story is powerful on its own. Nobody has ever lived the life that you have lived, and it will be very important that you share it with the world. So, Dr. Thar, that concludes our discussion. Thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you everyone for joining this live session. It is actually our very first. So please be on the lookout for many more. I hope this conversation has shown you that while the journey to graduate school can be challenging, it's also possible, but it will require your preparation, your perseverance, and the right support. So thank you so much. We will share resources in the chat, scholarship opportunities that you can look into. And please feel free to send us messages if you have any questions. Just comment on this video, or you can find us on social media, text us, send us a message on Facebook. We use our names. Is that true, Dr. Thar?
Yes,
Yeah, so you can search our names. If you also look into our institutions, you may find our profiles, but we'll be on the lookout for comments on this live session. Thank you again. We hope to see you soon.
Thank you again. Thanks to everyone, to Dr. Chepkorir and everyone listening to us. Thank you
It
very
was a
much.
pleasure having you, Dr. Thar.
Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Bye.